Welcome back to another episode of the Remade Life podcast. In this episode, I'm answering a question that I got in my DMs. How do I know if I'm ready to heal? And I'm sharing why there is a better question to ask yourself. I'm Coach Danny. Let's talk about it. Are you ready to rewrite your story and embrace a new perspective on healing autoimmune disease? Hey, I'm Daniela Spear, and I'm fascinated by exploring the human body, movement, and how emotions help to create our life's journey. After a transforming experience helped me to heal over 15 years of autoimmune symptoms, I decided to share what it looks like to have a second chance at a more compassionate relationship with my body. In this podcast, I will guide you in building lasting wellness by tapping into your body's innate wisdom, understanding the emotional roots of autoimmune disease, and how to use strength training not just for working out, but as a tool to heal from within. So get ready to revive your most inner joys, rebuild your health, and reclaim your life. This is the Remade Life podcast. Hello. Today we are diving into the question, how do I know if I'm ready to heal? This is a question that I got in my DMs, and I know that this is a question a lot of people have, and I think that it is a question that prevents people from starting their healing journey. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, I feel that it is important to just acknowledge the heaviness that I think everyone, if not most people, are feeling lately. I know there's just a lot going on in the world, in our own country. If you live in the US, I know I have some listeners outside of the US. Hello. And even just likely in your own life, right? Honestly, I have even taken a step back from social media in the last few weeks with just so much heavy energy around me. Posting on social media and even just teaching movement has felt very trivial. If you get the weekly Remade Journal, I shared about that in last week's newsletter, that I have just felt really unmotivated to be teaching right now, because it often feels like, what the heck can movement do to make a difference right now? There are bigger issues going on than someone's workout. Not to say that that's not important. Of course it is. It's just when you put things into perspective, sometimes the work that I do isn't the thing that most immediately impacts people and communities in the world. And at least that's the way it feels. It might not necessarily be true. And the last week and a half or so, I've also been working through one of the biggest autoimmune flare-ups that I've had since getting off medications. And I know that has been due to a lot of the heavy energy around me, in my own personal life, and kind of thinking through everything else that is going on in the world. You know what? It was really a very real check to my gut, literally and figuratively. And I said, me having a flare-up doesn't help anyone. But you know what does help? Movement. Movement helps my body heal and feel restored and supported. And when my body feels supported, I can support other people. I cannot help people when I'm having an autoimmune flare-up, which is why, of course, movement helps. And I'm, definitely talking to myself here. Movement is a catalyst for help. In the literal sense that movement primes your body to be able to help other people. And also on a global scale, the movement of people, the movement of initiatives and special operations and all of the things that provide immediate relief where it's needed. Movement helps. Movement dispels the heaviness. I also have a video on my YouTube channel. It's like a 25-ish minute video. It's a gentle flow for emotional grounding. And I think that can support anyone right now needing some release and some grounding. I will link that in the show notes. And if you find that video helpful, make sure that you subscribe to my channel for more content on autoimmune healing. But all right, let's get into today's topic, which is actually very applicable to what we just discussed. So like navigating your goals in the midst of chaos around you. So several months ago, I had gotten this DM from someone and they asked me, how do I know if I'm ready to heal? And this was a question that came right around when I was sharing that I had gotten approval from my doctor to get off of medication. So this was like earlier this year. And first I want to say shout out to this person, because by them asking this question, how do I know if I'm ready to heal? They are instinctively acknowledging that healing is a whole process. And they also acknowledge that, yes, you have to be ready, because healing isn't just your typical Friday night out. You don't just go and do it once and then bam, everything moving forward is going to be different. No, healing is a very intentional process that requires you to, one, be ready for it, and two, know that it's going to take as long as it takes. This is something that my business coach, the Movement Maestro on Instagram, she says a lot in reference to how long it takes to build a successful online business. It takes as long as it takes. And it's the same with healing. It takes as long as it takes. Now, I do want to say that healing can be a lifelong journey. Like, do we ever really reach the end of healing? Like, do you ever get to the day where you wake up and you're like, I'm all healed? Maybe. I mean, maybe from like the physical sense, right? From like a physical injury. Yeah, like you reach that point of like where you're fully healed. But from a spiritual sense, like that is very much tied to the physical. Like, I don't know if we ever really get there. And I don't say that to discourage anyone from starting their own healing journey, but I want to be honest with you that it does take a really long time to heal the emotional baggage that we have taken on as beliefs. It takes a long time to get honest with ourselves about how we create the environment that we live in, and also not to take that on as a personal attack on ourselves. Like, can we hold responsibility without shame? It takes a long time to unravel those patterns that were ingrained to us by our own families, our caregivers, our cultures, and the communities that we grew up in, and even just like recognizing how those patterns contribute to creating disease in our body. It just takes time, and it takes time to create compassion in the midst of realizing how you and the people you love created the experience that you now currently have in your own body. Like, that is heavy stuff. Like, it takes time to really grapple with that, to work through that, to process all of that. So if you thought that healing was just about changing some lifestyle practices and starting an exercise program and making better food choices and meditating every morning, like, please keep listening to this podcast, because you are exactly who I created this podcast for. Like, healing is a whole dang identity change. Healing requires you to take on a very different identity. And it's a lot of work and it takes time, but it's all good. Like, I'm here to guide you through that. That's why I started this podcast. So you have friends, you're not alone. So how do I know if I'm ready to heal? I actually think that this is the wrong question. A better question is, do I trust myself to handle the outcome? Do I trust myself to handle the outcome? This is actually another common phrase from my business coach, the movement maestro, and I'm realizing that online business and healing and autoimmune disease, there's a lot of like interconnectedness there. So and I'm an online business owner, and so you're gonna get a lot of that from me. But this question, do I trust myself to handle the outcome? I think this is a much better question. So I'm going to tell you why. Because it ain't change if something doesn't come to interrupt your progress. Like, am I right or am I right? I mean, think about it. How often have you started some sort of lifestyle or habit change and then bam, something completely out of your control and totally not your fault happens and it knocks you off your game, and before you know it, it's been like weeks and now you have to quote unquote start over, right? I know I'm not the only one. Like, yes, it happens to me too. Like the strength coach, the health coach, I start commitments all the time and some minor inconvenience comes along and my commitment falters. And it likely makes you feel like maybe I'm not ready to do whatever it is that you had set out to do. I mean, I get it. Like, healing autoimmune disease or little anything else, like, it's not easy. And if you ever don't feel ready, like, I hear you. There's a lot of times where I question my readiness as well. But here's the thing. Life is always going to be happening. Things will always be happening all over the world. And I by no means am saying that what's happening now is just another Tuesday, right? But if we're waiting until everything is calm and peaceful and the world situation is just right, we'll never be ready. Which is why the question, how do I know if I'm ready to heal, is not the best question to ask yourself. Because you might never feel ready. The world might never be ready, and the perfect environment for you to heal and thrive and have everything made easy for you might never be ready. So the better question is, do I trust myself to handle the outcome? Because once you get started, once you make that decision to start, I can guarantee you that there will be many outcomes that come your way. And here's what I mean by that. Like, you will probably get sick, and like, nothing like starting some healthy lifestyle changes in your life and then you get sick, right? Has that ever happened to you? So can you handle being sick and stay committed to your goals? And I don't mean like, if you're sick and you better still go to the gym and like avoid rest. What I mean is, can you trust yourself to rest, to get better, and pick up right where you left off without, and this is the important part, without the self-criticism of, see, this happens every time. Maybe I'm not meant to heal. Life is just unfair and something always gets in my way. Can you trust that getting sick is actually a part of the process? Can you trust that getting sick is a part of the healing? Can you trust that it's there to actually teach you something that you need as a part of your healing? Or maybe it's not even you. Maybe it's a family member that gets sick and you have to give of your time and energy to take care of them, whether it's like a short-term situation or a long-term. Like, can you trust yourself to handle that outcome? Do you just default to putting your own goals aside? Or are you willing to still show up for yourself to any degree possible? Whatever that may look like, do you trust yourself to handle the outcome? And the holidays, right, coming right up. This is like my least favorite time of the year, where people just throw away or pause their health for the sake of very commercialized holidays. Do you trust yourself to handle the outcome through the holidays? And I think this is where people trust themselves the least. And this is not a conversation about restriction. I'm not like talking about like, do you trust yourself to like stay committed to your, diet? If you know me, I'm definitely all about enjoying the good food guilt-free. But that's the thing, the guilt-free part. Do you trust yourself to enjoy the holiday season, enjoy the food, take a step back from your fitness routine if you need to, and enjoy that time guilt-free, knowing that you trust yourself to get back to your routine? Or do you ruminate in all the guilt and then have to quote unquote start over on January 1st, and then you find yourself overworking yourself and being overly restrictive to like make up for the holidays, right? Or does the world start to seemingly crumble around you? Like when you have finally done it, you've made that decision to change your life, and all of a sudden everything else starts kind of crumbling around you. Whether it's like on a global scale or just in your personal life. Do you trust yourself to handle the outcome? All of these things and many, many more outcomes, like things that just happen in the midst of your healing. Because the world just doesn't stop for you to heal. Like, no, the world keeps going in order for you to heal. Because none of what shows up in your life is there to interrupt you and keep you from healing. It is actually there to support your healing. It's there to hold a mirror to your own limiting beliefs, to your own limiting patterns, and to how you handle disruptions and interruptions. Do you trust yourself to handle the outcome? And just a moment of transparency here, like this podcast, starting this podcast for me has actually been a part of my healing journey. It's another step in healing the beliefs that my voice and my opinions aren't important. And I gotta tell you, it's been really scary. And I was really nervous to start. And there have been a lot of things that have come up to interrupt this process for me. And it has not been the smooth process that I thought it would be of, writing out my outline on Mondays and recording on Wednesdays and uploading my episode by Friday, right? Like, no, I'll be honest, it is like Friday at 8 p.m. right now, and this episode is going to be published on Sunday, November 5th, like literally a day from now. And I'm just now recording it because life happens, right? Life didn't just pause for me to be able to record this episode or any of the episodes that I've recorded so far. But I've had to ask myself that same question. Do I trust myself to handle the outcome? Because if I was just waiting for myself to be ready to start a podcast, like there would probably be no Remade Life podcast yet. Right? It was a matter of, do I trust myself to handle the outcome, whatever the outcome is, or just whatever comes up in the process. And yes, I have had to wrestle with that many times over the last several weeks. And I've had to confront myself and say, yes, I do trust myself. And you know what? Every week I have gotten it done. I have made it work because I trust myself to follow through. So that's my question for you. Do you trust yourself to handle the outcome? Can you navigate healing? Can you navigate change in the midst of life and the world moving around you? Can you hold fast, not necessarily to the daily commitments, but to the bigger picture? Because like I said earlier, healing isn't in going to the gym or in your daily meditation practice. I mean, yeah, like you can find healing in those things, but the real healing is in changing the mindset that you're not good enough and saying, you know what, I am good enough and I deserve to feel good. It's in checking your beliefs about rest and saying, you know what, I do deserve rest. I am worthy of rest and I can rest without feeling guilty about it. It's also in recognizing your tendency to over busy yourself to avoid dealing with your own emotions and saying, you know what, I need to address why I choose to exhaust myself in order to get approval from other people. So can you hold fast to the bigger picture of healing while life is just lifing all around you? Do you trust yourself to handle the outcome? Whatever the outcome is of you deciding to change, you deciding to heal. And if you can answer yes, then you, my friend, are indeed ready. Because healing is in the trust. And I think about it, like especially with autoimmune disease, who are the people that we metaphorically attack the most? It's the people we don't trust, right? Is it possible that autoimmune disease is present to hold a mirror to the fact that maybe you don't trust yourself? And from an energetic standpoint, autoimmune disease is a literal attack of the self, which often shows up as self-criticism, not keeping promises to yourself, and outsourcing your approval and self-worth to other people. Did I maybe strike a nerve there? Listen, I speak on that because I recognize where I have also experienced all of that. Like, that's why I'm able to recognize that. And I'm still working through like healing those wounds, and oftentimes what are self-inflicted wounds. And it has taken a lot of work for me to, recognize that and not make that mean anything about me as a person. It's just recognizing, how my past has created my present, and how do I want my present to create my future. Trusting myself to handle the outcome is something that I intentionally still have to choose to practice every time and anytime something comes up to interrupt me. And yeah, like I said, I still get interrupted and my focus just falters. So time and time again, I come back to this question: do I trust myself to handle the outcome? And the answer is always yes. I do trust myself. Even if I don't know how I'm going to handle a situation, I trust myself that whatever comes my way, I will figure out a way to handle it. And if I can't, then I will figure out a way to handle my own response to the situation, or I will figure out a way to care for myself during a difficult time. There are many ways to trust yourself through a particular situation or a period of time. So one more time. Do I trust myself to handle the outcome? I would love to hear your thoughts on this question. Does it change your perspective on healing or whether or not you're ready for it? Let me know. I would really love to hear from you. So send me a DM on Instagram at Daniela.Spear or send me an email, hello@remadewellness.com. Okay, if you found this podcast episode helpful, would you please leave me a 5-star review to help me share this podcast with other people? A review would just mean the world to me, so I would really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode, and until next time, be well, my friends.